All right, welcome back for another edition of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the video and article that I do for comicbookinvest.com where I talk about those hidden little gems you might be able to find in those dollar bins, those cheap boxes at your LCS, flea markets, yard sales, wherever you do your cheap comic book hunting. These are those little, again, those little nuggets you might be able to dig out if you are lucky and paying attention. So just throwing out some options based off of some of the recent news, announcements, leaks, rumors, things like that. Just things that I'm currently looking for that I think are a good idea for you to go hunting for as well. Hopefully, you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Let me know in the comments section. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Continue to keep telling your friends so we can keep growing this channel. We're slowly climbing that little minor milestone ladder, getting up to 1,500. And once I hit 1,500, we will be doing a giveaway here on the channel. So let's keep working towards that and keep having fun talking comics, pop culture, and all that stuff. So if you want to see what books I want to talk about and recommend for you this week, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I'll be right back. All right, so once again, I got back another list of books that I think you should be, keeping an eye out for when you're digging in those boxes. I mean, some might be extra tough to find because they've kind of heated up a little bit already, but others, I don't know, they still just might be there buried in those boxes. So just be mindful of that when you go out digging. I'm going to be looking at stuff from both Marvel and DC again, as I have been these last few weeks. I don't have any indie books this week, but I mean, we will get back to that stuff as we keep moving along with these weekly lists and these weekly recommendations. But our first bit comes from the casting news for the Craven movie that we got this week. Now, it was rumored like a week or so before, but now I guess we have that confirmation that they have cast this actress from West Side Story, Ariana Dubois, if I'm saying her name right, as Calypso. Calypso is an interesting character in the MCU, well, in the Marvel universe, and soon to be, I guess, MCU, even though it's kind of Sony. But I don't know. We'll see how this ends up turning out. But her first appearance has heated up over the, again, like I said, the last few weeks. So it might be a little tough to find in the cheap boxes. I mean, but there are still plenty of those beat up old ASMs that you might be able to dig out. And this was not a super popular book to begin with, but you might still be able to track one down if you're lucky. But just keep an eye out. You might be able to still pick this up for cheap. And this is Amazing Spider-Man number 209, which is Calypso's first appearance in the comics. We'll start here, and you can even see the connection there with Craven in on this issue as well. Recent sold issues on this thing. You can see this thing has sold recently on today, March 3rd, for $20 and $30, both today. So you can see not too bad of a sale price if you can dig one out for cheap. And currently, the asking prices are pretty significant as well, with asking prices in that $40 up to $90 range. Granted, a lot of them are in that $30 to $40 kind of range, but it can get as high as 90. And that's not even talking about the graded options that could be out there as well. As I said, this is a book that's kind of heated up a little bit lately, but it still might be one that not every LCS or every store that sells comic books, because not everything is a comic book store where you can find your books. I mean, I know some people in this country, around the country are lucky enough to have things like half price books and things of that nature, maybe even Books a Million. I don't know if they're still in business, but those types of places, which may not be as up on the news with some of these comic books. So these are things that you might be able to dig out for cheap in some of those other spots, those off the wall, off the radar, off the beaten path type sources. If you are lucky enough to have that kind of stuff in your area, go check the flea markets and whatnot. Now, the next bit I'd like to just bring up with Calypso, because when I think of Calypso, I think of that Todd McFarlane run that started off with Spider-Man in what was it, 1990. And yes, I mean, Spider-Man 1 is going to be tough, because not that it's tough. I mean, there was 1.7 million of these, I think, produced. So there's tons of copies of this out there. It's just finding this in dollar bins. You're not going to have a good time trying to find these now for $1. But hey, you never know. But the rest of the issues, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I still see these plenty. I still see plenty of that McFarlane run in those cheap boxes, because they made a ton. They printed a lot. So there are a lot of these to be had. But even in the issue 1, where we get this kind of a tease of her, look, I mean, that's just her in silhouette there down at the bottom of that panel. That's really all you get. We're not really getting much of her yet. She's just kind of in the background throughout this story as the puppeteer kind of running Lizard at at Peter Parker. So that was issue one. And then issue two, you get a little bit more of a tease. You still just keep seeing a little bit more of her. Now she's not in shadow. We just see a close up of her eye again as she's, tormenting the spider here. Yes, that keep builds and builds as we get through issue three, which I think is where we finally get a good look at her here with the lizard in the story. But it really isn't even until like the end. Like again, she's still a little bit more of a tease. And then we also get this zombified Craven at this issue, at the end of this issue too, because Peter's a kind of poisoned at this time, so he's kind of hallucinating a little bit, seeing a lot of stuff that isn't really there, while Lizard is coming after him. But crazy story, fun story. One you should pick up because the art is still pretty cool. If you like McFarlane's art, you should like this series, especially for Spider-Man. This is really at the height of his popularity, if you will, when he was doing Spidey. And like I said, there's also issue 4, which you can still find these things in the boxes. I'm not going to bother showing you one more tease panel of her, but then we have issue 5, where we still get her, more of her, and a little bit of the backstory, I guess, of why she's doing this. But he's not even named. Like Peter Parker doesn't even know who this witch is, but it is Calypso after all. So I don't know. Still worth picking up if you could find it for cheap. Because like I said, it's just one, a fun read, two, decent art, and three, it's gonna cost you $1. It's not a huge investment. And as you can see here, we're going to look at some of the random issues in some of the collections. So we had today, there was a lot of, I think those are the issues 2, 3, 4, and 5 that I'm mentioning. Like only $22.50 for the 4 issues. And then best offer on $25 for the first 5 issues all together there. So they're not expensive like these books. Even in lots, you can see these things aren't selling for too much. And if you look online, look, you can get issue 2 online for $1. Like right now, there's 15 sold, almost gone by this seller, but 15 sold. So they had multiple copies they were selling of issue 2 for 99 cents. While you can see lots of 1 through 5 are a little bit pricier right now on what's actually available. Somebody asked about $70. And just another example, like the other issues could go up to like $5. So that's why I have that issue 3 down there showing us $5. So really at $1 to $5 is what the asking prices are on eBay. But again, if you just go looking in those dollar bins, you can still find these issues because there are plenty of them out there. All right, so that's our first one related to that Calypso news. I felt like these are just some decent books to go kind of looking for. The next one, we're going to switch over to DC and with the comics related to Red X's identity being revealed. And that happened, I don't know if it was this week or last week in Teen Titans Academy number 12. We see the huge reveal, I guess, that Red X is actually this Brick Pederoso character, if I'm saying his name right. I don't know if I'm saying it properly or not, but there is our big reveal. And again, I'm a little bit behind on my DC stuff, so I don't know if that was like a huge deal or if this was a satisfying reveal for most. But if you are curious about this character's first appearance, the Brick Pederoso, not Red X, which I think we got to go back to that Teen Titans Go, I guess, or whatever the animated books. But this particular character we can find first here in Future State Teen Titans number 2. And this has 2 covers. This is the A cover and then a pretty cool B cover. I don't know, kind of dig it. And you can see this thing, even though it's a semi-recent book, it's still pretty cheap. I mean, if you go looking right now, there's lots of 1 and 2 of that Future State for $6.50. A lot of 3 books that includes, I think, the A and B cover. So you had cover A of issue 1 and then issue 2 covers, $11.50 for all 3 issues. So this is undercover type stuff. And then you can see issue 2 down below, sold for $1 on February 27th. So even online, this can sell for as cheap as $1, this book. And if you look at what's available right now, you can see it cover or less for the A or the B cover, really. And there's some higher asking prices for some of these issues. I mean, there's some that are asking $10, but these are available. So I figured we might as well talk about the cheapest ones that are available. I mean, why tell you that they're asking more? Like, who's going to pay more when you can pay less? But I know in some places, when I looked this up on, I forget if it was on the DC fandom or if it was on Comic Find, but they actually pointed towards the Infinite Frontiers being his first appearance. But that issue came out after the Future State. The Future State came out the month before, a few weeks before the Infinite Frontier 0. So I don't know why there was some resources pointing to this being the first appearance. And even if this was the first appearance, because if it came out or was released first, we're not talking about much of a first, because we're talking about, yeah, Red X is on the cover, the back of this cover, as well as in one splash page on the interior, way up there at the top, right where it says Infinite Frontier. His head, he's right there. Like, that's it. So it's not really a great appearance anyway. So I don't know. I wouldn't really be putting too much into this, but if you don't have it, I mean, you go pick it up for $1 if you can get it that cheap. And you can see this thing doesn't sell for all that much, $4. February 27th, and that's at 3 bids, so I had to get bid up to $4. And then there's copies available you can buy right now for 8, which I probably wouldn't do for that. But if you found it in a cheap box, sure, give it a shot. I think it was 6 or 7 issues, the whole series, and this is issue 0. But see what you can find when you go out there digging. All right, what do we got next? We're going to bounce back over the Marvel. I think we're going to go back and forth today between the companies, between the publishers, and we're going to bounce back over to Marvel and look at this Thor merchandise, for this Thor 4 merchandise. So for Love and Thunder, once again, the Lego is kind of spoiling a little bit of what we might see. Where last week we talked about the goats. This week we are looking at this creature, this monster that they are facing on the attack on New Asgard. So it looks like this creature might be attacking the new home of the Asgardians. A few people online, at least, have pointed out to this possibly being the Midgard Serpent, and I tend to agree. I think that's what they might be looking at here. Yes, this is a weird, creepy looking version of a serpent. I mean, if you look at it, it's like, what is this? Tentacles? It's got claws. But I think that just might be a slight change in the design based off of them not wanting to be too similar to the dragons we got in Shang-Chi. You know, like, I feel like maybe they decided to tweak the design a little bit on the Midgard Serpent to try to make it a little bit more unique and not just another dragon that we've already seen before. At least that's my gut instinct. And even apart from that, when you check out the Midgard Serpent, I can't even think its real name. It's like Jormundu or something. The actual name for it. It's had a few different looks throughout the years anyway. So, I mean, this wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that they decided to tweak the look again. Going back to the first, I guess we'd have to go all the way back to Thor 127, which is, you're not going to find this in a dollar bin. You just not. I mean, this is an expensive book. It's an old book. It's basically the second issue of the Mighty Thor, where that's, from Journey into Mystery. He's now the Mighty Thor. But you can see there at the end of this issue, we do get the Midgard Serpent, proclaiming Ragnarok. And look at that. This doesn't even look like a serpent at all, and it's red, and it kind of, I mean, it's Kirby goodness, but it does look like something straight out of the New Gods when you take a look at it. I don't know. But so there's one version of that character, and then we can jump ahead, a little bit into the run. We go to issue 273, and now you can look at this Midgard Serpent. Looks more like a snake, I guess, just with goggles. I don't know. It looks more just like a viper than anything else. And this issue also, again, these are just other appearances, not the first, but it's still appearances of this dragon, so you might be able to find it. They're kind of cool. I mean, plus it's Thor. Thor's always a fun read if you're into that kind of thing. But sold copies on this, look, it gets sell for as cheap as $1 or $7, so it's still not an expensive Thor issue or back issue if you can find it. Granted, condition, it might not be the highest of grades for this because it's an older Marvel book, and a lot of older Marvel books, when you find them in those boxes, could be a little beat up, but hey, there's nothing wrong with grabbing a mid-grade book, especially if it's for the PC. So, and especially if you're only paying $1 for it. So, I don't know. That's what I do, and I don't mind buying books like that personally. But you make your own decisions. It's your money. You collect how you want to collect. And you can see even available online. There's copies available of this particular one for $4 to $8, and the $8 is with shipping. So it's really not all that expensive for this. And like I said, it's cool Midgard Serpent appearance. Now, the other one I kind of like comes a little bit later yet again, issue 379, where we have this Fin Fang Foom sort of appearance, but I think it's actually the serpent in disguise, if I'm remembering correctly. But the next issue is really the coolest cover, this 380. I dig this one. Now, this looks more dragon-like, more like a dragon we would expect. And yeah, like I said, it looks like a dragon we saw just in Shang-Chi, just green, as opposed to the white dragon. And then there was that black dragon. It was like white and red. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if any of this ends up playing out or what that creature might be. That creature could be something else completely different. I just feel like it makes a lot of sense for it to be some version of, the Midgard Serpent. And this, like I said, is a cool book to go and pick up. this issue 380. And you can see out there, even higher grade ones, $6 or even just $1. So back in February, it's still 99 cents. Even online, you can find this for $1 sometimes. Available copies on this one, $4 to $7. So again, it's not an expensive book. I'm not saying this should be an expensive book. I'm just pointing out that, hey, it's kind of a cheap little thing you might be able to dig out that's related to some of these toys and some of the announcements and things we might get. Just kind of fun. Who knows? Who knows where this could go? But I would just get it just for the PC because it's part of the Simonson return run here. Definitely pretty cool. So that'll take us out of this one, and we'll go back over to DC for this next bit. And the next bit, we're going to go looking at Professor Pig. Apparently, in this the Arkham Asylum comic that they were running, is showing that he actually has like a plan to actually help some of these disturbed Gothamites with actual like help, like, and actually a plan to make them get better. It's definitely an interesting take, considering he is a very odd character and has been since he first appeared. But reason why I bring this up and reason why I think this could be kind of important is that kind of storyline of like a villain basically kind of running the asylum could be something that could tie into what we recently found out that they are going to be doing another series on HBO Max, another spin-off, and it's a spin-off for Arkham Asylum. And it's something I can see them doing. And Professor Pig is kind of a character I think that could play well on screen and be of some importance on a series like that. Because he's not a major Batman villain, so you don't have to put too many resources into. It's like, hey, well, we don't want to waste like a Joker on a TV show, but you can use a character of that kind of level of a Professor Pig on something like this. So I think it makes a lot of sense and something we could see kind of playing out. So I think we should keep an eye on Professor Pig. And his first appearance would, I guess, be that Batman and Robin #1. A lot of versions of this, a lot of prints. This is the first print, bright yellow. There's a second print that's bright red. There's a third print with this pale blue. And there's a fourth print that's just got a plain white kind of background. And then there's, I believe, like a whatever the DC version of like a True Believers. There's like another cheap version that came out after this. There's also the 1 in 25 incentive. Has a pretty cool J.G. Jones cover. I'm not showing the images for those, but there are other options for this book out there. And there's also a black and white sketch that was like a 1 in 250 or something that's pretty tough to find, I guess, considering the high ratio. But the regular issue, the yellow cover, you probably can find this. I've found this a couple of times in the cheap boxes because this was printed pretty heavily. It was a decent print run on this because it was a popular run. It's Grant Morrison and Frank Quietly doing Batman and Robin with Damian and Dick Grayson. So it was a big deal. So they made a lot. And you can see here, $5, up to, but even that $15, that's for issues 1 through 23 for $15. In the middle there, you can see for $4.25, that's issues 1 through 6 with like some variants. I think that's a second print that's mixed in there for $4.50. You're getting multiple issues, whereas a single can run you $5 at times. But that's what I'm talking about. Some of these things you can get in lots. It's a good read. This entire run was kind of fun. There's the flamenco character, pink flamingo. Some interesting characters also introduced that, hey, who knows? Maybe we see them show up and stuff. Because again, if they start doing TV shows and start doing more like the Peacemaker type stuff on HBO Max, I really feel like some of the minor characters are really what they're going to use because they don't want to waste their big guns that they might want to bring to the big screens. But we'll see. And available copies on this, you can see as cheap as $3.50 to $10. So definitely not that expensive of a book, considering just the sheer number available. There's plenty of these out there, but still, keep an eye on it just because there's a lot of copies. I mean, there's a lot of copies of New Mutants 98, but that thing is pretty valuable. Not saying this is going to be like that. I'm just making the point that it's not all about the print run. It's really just simple supply and demand. So if the demand exceeds that supply, that's when we'll start seeing prices increase. But go find it for cheap. Get ahead of the game and just store a 1 or 2 in a box if you can go find them. And who knows what could happen down the line. All right. And our last one, we're going to go shift back over to the Marvel Universe and look at some recasting news. So Ironheart, Riri Williams adds This Is Us star Lyric Ross. I mentioned this on the Attack Show last night. And she's going to be playing Natalie Washington, Riri's good friend. And if not spoil things, eventually will be her AI in her system because she meets a unfortunate end of a sort, but still carries on through. Read the stories. I don't know if that's what they're going to do on the show, but the point of her being on the show is she's her friend, and there is potential for her to be more closely tied into the Ironheart series going forward. So it's a character should be paying attention to, as well as Anthony Ramos apparently playing the show's villain, who we'll get to that in a minute. Let's stick with Natalie Washington first. So her first appearance is in this Invincible Iron Man #1. And yes, on the cover, it says Riri is Ironheart, but she's not going by Ironheart yet, nor does she have the Ironheart armor yet. I know it can be kind of confusing and a little bit frustrating when you're going to collect Riri Williams keys because there's so many different options as far as, well, her first appearance is it 7? Is it really 9? When does she first become Ironheart? Is it here where it says it on the cover, or when she says it inside the book in issue 3, or is it when she actually gets the new purple, pink, and yellow armor? There's so many different options of books you can get for her that, like I said, it can be frustrating at times, but I don't know. It's still fun stuff to go and collect. Now, this issue of Invincible Iron Man, they made plenty of it. Definitely heavily printed. There's even a second print, which is pretty pricey. It's got that blue logo, so keep an eye out for that if you go out digging. And there are still some cool other variants that aren't incentives, like the Steam variant, the science, engineering, technology, and math. Like, I like these covers. There's a couple for the young Marvel Universe characters like Luna and Miles, and I think the Champions. There's one. Like, there's some good covers for the younger Marvel heroes, and I don't know. I always keep an eye out for these Steam variants, and they are starting to pick up in price a little bit. So I'm not the only one. And then the Divided We Stand cover as well could be pricey as sometimes too. If you go looking online, some of the asking prices you get a little steep because these were different variants that they released, and I don't know if some of them are qualifying, and stores are not going to order everything. There's just a lot of options. I mean, there's hip hop cover. There's also the Midtown version. There's the action figure cover as well. There's just so many covers that Marvel just really, really puts out so many different covers for these books. Not even getting into store variants. But that all being said, stick with the regular issue because that's what we're going to look at. Cover A, $15. Not too bad still on this is what you can get for it if you go and find one for cheap. And then you can see, as I mentioned, that second print, $188. One sold for February 26th. So that second print could sell for cheap. I know, not cheap. You can sell for good money. I get it. Like, there is a lot of interest these days in these later printings, but some of these, I couldn't justify that personally. I don't see the point in paying that much for that book. I get it. It's hard to find, but so I don't know. But hey, everybody can collect how they want to collect. Spend your money how you want. I'm just telling you, I wouldn't do it with my money. That's all. And we see what's available on this. As I said, right now, the cheapest copy I can find available for Invincible Iron Man 1 was $30 asking price. And then you can see the Divided We Stand. There's one asking 40, but there was another one asking like 250. And then the Steam variant, there was a lot in like the 50 to like 70, $80 kind of range. So not a lot, but like half a dozen or so. So there's multiple copies asking kind of in that $70 range. So as I said, the prices are starting to pick up on some of these variant types. So keep an eye on them. But regardless of keeping an eye on the variant types, that cover A, if you can go and dig it out of a box, I know they're probably been picked pretty clean at this point because a lot of people have been specking on Riri for a while. But just in case, I still want to throw it out there to make sure you're still aware to be mindful of this book in case you come across it for cheap. That's all. That's the whole point of it. I know not everything I mention is going to be found at a dollar box. Dollar boxes are different wherever you're digging, like different states. It's just different shops, different stock. It's not going to be the same for everybody, but I'm just trying to just give you ideas of stuff that you might be able to find. Just be aware of it. Keep an eye out for it because who knows? And speaking of which, who knows exactly who he will be playing as the villain? Everybody keeps pointing towards Ezekiel Stane, Obadiah's, the Ironmonger's son. And sure, I could see it happening, I guess. It would make a lot of sense just to give her another villain that's the exact opposite of her. It's like the old school Marvel introduction way of, yep, first villain's just going to be the bad version of the good guy. So Ironmonger is just a bigger, badder version of Iron Man. So he was the first villain. So why not do the same thing for Riri? But I don't know. It just seems kind of lazy to me at this point. Granted, Riri doesn't have a huge catalog of villains that they can choose from that are just her own. But I don't know. It just seems kind of lazy to me to pick the Iron Man's bad guy's son just to face her. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Who knows? So they can write it well. Maybe he'll play it well, and it will be more interesting than it is in my head right now. But that all said, if you are interested in Ezekiel Stane, then you can find his first appearance here in the Order #8. this offshoot oddball Marvel title that back in the Secret Invasion times. So issue 8 is where you're going to get that first Ezekiel stain if you want to go collecting it. And some people have been. As you can see, a lot of listings are listing it as his first. That's the big selling point for this book because I don't think anybody else is reading the order. But 14 bucks to 18 bucks copies are selling for. Well, if you can find it for $1, that's not a bad little turnaround. And available copies right now in that 17 to 25 kind of dollar range. So it is what it is. It's not the biggest deal in the world. It is villain spec after all, but hey, if you find it for cheap, who knows? It might be worth picking up. Just in case that's who he's playing. But that's all I got for you this week. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully you enjoyed this look into some of the books that are related to some of these news items and announcements and things like that, because I have fun looking into this stuff. And like I said, this is the stuff that I'm looking for when I go digging. So I figured I'd let you guys know too. You go take a look as well, and hopefully you find it. And if you do, let me know. Tag me on Instagram. I love to see your guys' pickups and the stuff that you guys find when you go out there digging. So make sure you tag me on Instagram too. So with that said, thank you for stopping by and checking this out. Hopefully you enjoyed that as well as all the other content here on the channel on Rennavision. I keep trying to do some fun stuff. Let me know the stuff that you want to see more of. Just hit me up in the comments. Hit me on with a direct message on Instagram. I don't mind it at all. So let's just have fun looking at comics and talking about comics. And yeah, check out the live shows here on the channel on Wednesdays and Sundays and join the chat because they can be a lot of fun. And audience participation is required. So with that all said, thank you again, and I'll be back with some more content very, very shortly.